Up top it comes to Joe. Felton is on it. Joe puts it up for the win. Got it!
Joe Marcus Johnson, born June 29, 1981. Welcome to the Beautiful Game series on Stunted Growth, where we talk about guys whose basketball game was just an amazing sight to see and deserve to be appreciated and documented. Not every player has a growth stunt or spurt story, but one that still should be told. Today, that guy is none other than Joe Johnson. Carmelo Anthony, when asked, said that Joe Johnson is the most underrated one-on-one player of his era. He said that watching him work was like poetry in motion. Well, Melo, I think a lot of fans of basketball feel the same way about one of the smoothest, effortless, cold-blooded shooting guards of all time. He was the perfect height for a shooting guard at 6'7", had enough size on him as well, where he could compete on both ends against any shooting guard and most small forwards at 240 pounds in his prime, and he was an absolute killer, the perfect example of a quiet assassin. According to Basketball Network, there are a total of 821 game-winning buzzer beaters recorded in the NBA's history, and of course the GOAT Michael Jordan ranks number 1 and has the most individually with 9, and Joe Johnson just happens to be right behind him with 8, tied with only Kobe Bryant. He had nerves of steel and was highly skilled since his days at Arkansas, where he shot 40% from 3 for his 2-year career and was able to leave school early. He was the 10th pick in the 2001 NBA draft ahead of guys like Tony Parker and Gilbert Arenas. Arenas said during the draft he had to call his agent after seeing Joe Johnson picked so early because all throughout college he had no idea who Joe Johnson was. Says he called because there had to have been a mistake and maybe his name was already called but somehow he missed it. It took 3 years after entering the NBA for Joe Johnson to finally understand his potential and begin to show what the Celtics saw but passed on during Joe's rookie year, and what kind of player the Suns picked up to add to one of the most exciting teams of the 2000s. Steve Nash was playing at MVP levels and one of the most exciting players in the league, and as Joe Johnson says, Amari Stoudemire was dunking on everybody, while Q Rich rained threes and Joe Johnson got buckets and played the closer for a team that was good enough to win a championship. He was then traded to the Atlanta Hawks and found a home he could be the guy for years to come. He made the All-Star team 6 straight times with the Hawks and 1 with the Nets. He played 18 seasons in the league, finishing his career at 40 years old and one of the more beautiful players to watch ever for these reasons. Let's talk about it. Salute to Captain Hook on IG for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Worked and worked and worked. I know this sounds like a normal, everyday thing, especially for players that made it to the NBA, seeing as millions have had the NBA dream, but only roughly 500 players ever make it. But you would be surprised how few of them actually continue to work on their game after they make it there or after receiving their first big contract. All players have their point where they've gotten enough out of basketball, whether it be monetarily, status-wise, or gathered enough achievements they relax and let their careers go how they may. Then there's guys who are so gifted that their natural talent is good enough to be one of the better players in the league that can even keep a consistent job. But only a certain few actually work on their game, and even fewer go the extra mile to be elite. Joe Johnson was one of those guys. He said in an interview with the Players Tribune that he watched his mom work 2 jobs just to provide for her family, and since then understood that basketball could be his way to help out financially, so he worked on his game, and when he made it to the NBA, he set new goals of staying in the league and being one of the best players on that level. This turned his work ethic up and it became almost a natural habit to hit the gym. But this wasn't some new thing. Joe Johnson was a 6'7" shooting guard small forward from Little Rock, Arkansas that fell in love with the game at 7 years old, spending time at the local Boys and Girls Club where his mom worked her second job. He said that some days the gym would be packed with kids, but he got more enjoyment on the days no one else was there. He became a star for Little Rock Central, where he played a lot of point guard and shooting guard. His senior season, he won a state championship and was named Arkansas Mr. Basketball before signing with his dream school, the Arkansas Razorbacks. They put on a whole show for him when he got there on his visit, talking about how exciting playing there would be, not knowing Johnson was already sold on the idea since watching the Razorbacks' past tournament achievements and knew he was going there no matter what. His first season, he made the SEC All-Freshman team and the SEC All-Tournament team, averaging 16 points, nearly 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and shot 36% from 3, immediately becoming the team's leader and star player. His sophomore year, he scored a bit less but shot 40% from 3, becoming an all-conference performer. The hard work paid off a first time entering the draft and being taken 10th overall by the Celtics in 2001. He struggled with the team, leading to him being traded mid-season to Phoenix, where hard work paid off once again once his role expanded to the point he needed his own team he could be the number one option. He credits his success to being a gym rat, and it paid off being one of the few players that played all the way into their 40s.
Gets it to Joe Johnson. JJ rises up and drains the shot at the buzzer.
Phoenix, please don't match. Another huge element that helped showcase Johnson's beautiful game was him getting the opportunity to play for a team he could be the man. He was improving every season in Phoenix, and his last two, from 03 to 05, he became the third leading scorer on a team with 4 all-star caliber players. After the 04-05 season, Johnson became a restricted free agent, and everyone on the team knew he was good enough and would want a bigger role as a player, so probably wasn't going to return to Phoenix. Atlanta came calling and ensured him they would give him the role he wanted, which was to be the star for the team, and he says he asked Phoenix personally not to match the offer and let him go. They decided on a sign and trade, and Joe Johnson became a Hawk and averaged over 20 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds immediately on a rebuilding Hawk team. He became an all-star the very next season, averaging a career high in scoring at 25 points per game. They made the playoffs for the first time in 07-08 since the 98-99 season and took the Celtics to Game 7, ultimately losing to the eventual champions. From there, Joe Johnson led the team to 5 straight playoff appearances, even though they could never seem to get past the second round. In Atlanta, his game was on full display and is where he became a star in his prime and face of a franchise like he always wanted.
4 seconds left. Johnson with 3, with 2. Johnson the leader. Yes!
His one-on-one and clutch game. For a guy with the nickname ISO Joe, he has to be a cold one-on-one player, and that Joe Johnson was. What's impressive is that he was that way into his 40s and is still probably unbeatable one-on-one. He literally had all the moves and could score from multiple levels equally well. He had a post game that usually led to a killer short fadeaway where he hezzied his way into it so smoothly, getting to the spot he wanted, then either faded away or counter fade up and under to an elite finish. His mid-range was also deadly, using his size, quick first step, and counter moves to knock down tough shots. Then he shot over 37% from 3 for his career, which is not easy to do for 18 years. He was deceptively quick with the ball, expressionless, athletic, and skilled enough to make the game look so easy while being efficient and effective. Then, as a closer, which you always want your star to be, Johnson was one of the best of all time and made them look so daggering for the opposing team. In the post-Jordan era, as mentioned, no one has more game-winning shots than him. Only Kobe ties him with 8 total less than 5 seconds or buzzer beaters. By his mid-30s, he began to move around a lot, last playing in Houston at 36 before moving on to the Big 3, where he further showcased his beautiful game, and it was appreciated so much it earned him a return shot to the league at 40 years old after missing 3 years. All in all, Joe Johnson had a great career that borders the Hall of Fame line, some like Reggie Miller believing one day he'll be named one. that played with one of the best paces to the game ever. It started slow, but his career took off and was beautiful to watch for these reasons. Salute to Joe Johnson, one of my favorite players ever. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.
Joe Johnson with 4. Johnson with 2. Drives in, puts it up.